Hello, John. Thank you for coming back on the show here. Just to remind the audience, please click the link in the description box, and that will take you to John's website. Please sign up for his periodicals and do a reading, maybe even buy some of his books. But throughout this broadcast, we'll talk about those types of items. Thank you again for having this show with me, John. I greatly appreciate it. A lot is going on in the news.
Yeah, and just one other quick early business too for everybody out there. One of the great ways to get more eyeballs on this show is if you're a big fan already, just see that like button down below on the screen and click on it. That activates YouTube to bring more and more people in. And if you're new and if you want to just check us out, but if you find you like what you're hearing, then click the like button then. And that helps us a huge amount.
We already have a thumbs up by Oscar.
Wow, Oscar, thank you.
So, all right. So just to start the table here, we have an event that's taking place in Mexico, and it's the president of Mexico that is having a lot of protests at the presidential building, which is sort of their White House. And Gen Z is surrounding, they're having conflicts with the police. They've torn down one of the safety walls already. Wow. This has been going on for about a day or so. And you and I were talking behind the scenes before we started the show that we wanted to talk a little bit about this. You want to give me your perspective on it first, and I can give you maybe my metaphysical critique, or do you want me to start?
Actually, I think what you said before would be good. I would only simply say that I've been in that square back in 2010, and it's a huge square, and the Gen Zers were absolutely packing it. So it's a multitude were there. I didn't hear about the wall being torn down, but yeah. So start with what you were saying to me. That'll let me go in many tributaries.
Okay. So my understanding is she's the first female president, but she's also Jewish. All right, and there's a reason why I bring up her being Jewish. We got to go back to about 15 years ago. There's a larger arc here, and it's like fractals, where there's a golden ratio and it just spirals out farther and farther. Similar to history rhymes, but doesn't repeat kind of theme here.
Mark Twain.
so actually, I was just watching some documentaries about Mark Twain. Yeah. But he was actually an interesting.
I must be psychic.
But he's an interesting character and extremely.
Tremendous, very funny. My God,
very funny guy. So okay, back to the crisis here. Yes. So about 15 years ago, there were incidences where Orthodox Jews from Hasidic communities would be killed in a terrorist attack, either in Israel or outside of Israel. And the Hasidic philosophy, some of the philosophers that are explaining why these events are happening, attribute it to where the Orthodox community wasn't reaching out to the secular Jewish community to bring them into the fold and be more religious. So they didn't pay attention. And a few years later, there were further terrorist attacks in Jewish Orthodox communities where their children were killed. And here's another spiral of that fib sequence where there is a curse that happens because something is supposed to be done. You're supposed to pay attention and to rectify whatever is wrong in the society or within your community. If you don't do it, then a further curse comes, and it's going to be more impactful. So what's the most precious thing to a Orthodox Jewish family? It's their children, because that's what carries on the line. Well, if you take that away, then maybe it wakes up the Orthodox community to rectify whatever the Godhead may think is wrong. All right. So they didn't pay attention when their children were taken away through these terrorist attacks. Now, fast forward to what happened just before October 7th of 2023. What happened was on Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv, and I think other cities within Israel, but I know of the incident in Tel Aviv, where there were ultra left Jews that were not religious that were actually desecrating the service during Yom Kippur, the most holy day of the year. All right, this is the Day of Atonement. Right, you're asking God for forgiveness, and you're trying to purify your soul and be written into the book of life. Well, they desecrated, and some of these people went into synagogues nude in front of these Orthodox people while they were praying for Yom Kippur. Now, what is interesting about this is one of the major organizers of this leftist group, one of his children was either killed or taken hostage during October 7th.
Okay.
May have been killed, but I'm not sure the details in this, but he definitely, one of his children were affected by October 7th. All right, so fast forward, October 7th happens. Everyone that was involved, or almost everybody that was involved, that was either captured or killed, were secular Jews. They were not Orthodox Jews. Now, this is another spiral of the fib sequence. All right. Through October 7th onward into current time, there have been protests on campuses. There have been infighting within the Jewish community about how the war was conducted in Gaza. So there's a lot of strife that's taking place, not just in the Jewish community between Orthodox and secularists, but also at the world at large. There's infighting that's taking place, and a lot of anti-Semitism is starting to pop up. And you're also,
as I was interjecting, MAGA
right,
is having an implosion. And I was also just interjecting too that just before, I think in Yom Kippur, there were a whole bunch of, I think some of them were Orthodox, but probably Talmudic, went with palm fronds into Alaska to do a service. So it is fractaling out to many other places since then. And then because there's a lot of complicated stuff to go over, let me also say that on the, on October 7th, I mean, I've shown the footage in Hogue Prophecy Reports. The Hannibal Directive had been initiated, and of the 1,400 Israeli citizens, Jewish citizens that were killed, half of them were killed by Israeli Defense Force helicopters. And the Hannibal Directive is that, which is another kind of going against your own people, because the Hannibal Directive is there by the Zionist state to make sure that if any of their people are being taken as hostage, that they are killed, so that the enemy Hamas doesn't have a bargaining chip. So literally, if you're stolen by them, that was going on all through the months of the bombing, that a whole lot of the hostages were being hunted down by the Israeli government, even for months. So okay, I'll just say that much. So there's a lot of intersecting social disruptive things going on. And there's a bigger cosmic astrological picture to this, which we'll get into, but continue.
Okay. So now at the current state of this fractal, we have infighting within the Jewish community between secular and Orthodox. We have infighting between Jews and non-Jews. There's a lot of anti-Semitism that's happening, and we're just starting to see the cracks of the MAGA movement starting to have infighting.
Yeah.
And I'm there on September 11th of 2026 is when the next Rosh Hashanah happens. And that's on the Sabbath, where the shofar cannot be blown. And that's when Satan can't be silenced. Normally, when you have Rosh Hashanah, you blow the shofar, the ram's horn, and you're silencing Satan. And what happens is that you are able to get an extra metaphysical blessing for forgiveness. But if you can't blow the shofar, curse comes down. And curse doesn't come down just on Jews. Curse can come down on the world at large, like world wars, all right, or major stock crashes, all right. So we're starting to see the fragility of society because of groups of people not being able to get along. Religious, not religious, Jewish, non-Jewish, American, non-American.
Venezuelan versus American fleet.
And there is a high probability of a curse coming down next year on September 11th. And it's not just on the Jews this time. See, it's going to be much bigger. And you're starting to see crypto starting to crack with Bitcoin. You're starting to see perturbations in the financial markets with the overinvestment in AI. You're starting to see debt overhangs in the UK and France with their doom loop. You're starting to see supposedly stable democracies not being able to maintain their parliament or their prime ministership.
Well, it's like France, like Germany, and this does some. We're talking about heartland of Europe, France, Germany, England, the British. Those places are hotbeds of potential revolution in next year.
So the main point that I want to give to the audience is that there is a high probability of a curse coming down on September 11th of next year because of the way the world is going, and it's not finding equilibrium and finding a way towards peace. And the curse that came down on the Jews in 2023 is going to be magnitudes higher for the world on 9/11 of next year.
Yes, so karma rhymes with curse. Starts with the same, even though it's a different alphabet letter. My view of this is I can understand the use of curse. Actually, it'd be great if you can draw up while you're looking, maybe you can draw up the definition, all the different layers of meanings of curse. It might be interesting to see. I'm not able to do it right now, but sometimes in my Hogue Prophecy reports, like I started my last batch with in American Heritage definition, an old version, because the new American Heritage has taken out a lot of information, dumbing it down. So mine goes back to 1970. And when they really did the etymology well, and we looked at the first thing I talked about with my fight, the struggle between two Christian um, nationalists, kind of from John Brown to Charlie Kirk, both being martyrs at the precursor to a potential cold civil war that's been on since 2020 in the United States. So these things have been brewing. The structural decline of Israeli politics is something in Hogue Prophecy Report I've been talking about for years. And strangely, I don't know why, but I'm very accurate in predicting Israeli elections, as accurate as I am with the United States presidential election. I don't know why. I'm just the millipede prophet here. I'm not going to try to think about why that works. Otherwise, I'll fall on my back or something. So, because it doesn't require the ego thinking, it requires getting out of the way. So, the thing that I've been watching these things are, it's not so much a curse now. The curse or the karma coming home is just like, well, take for example my old analogy of you got a chain smoker, smokes a pack a day. Everything's fine. He's healthy, he's great. And then 40 years later, he finds out that his lungs are riddled with stage 4 cancer. And he goes, "Oh my God, what happened? I must have been cursed. Some curse has descended upon me." I see this as the all it's the same thing. We're having a structural crisis. We're coming to the peak of the fourth turning, the the 80-year cycle that we last time we were in it was World War II. And it's very interesting to see that a lot of the things that were plaguing us back then, fascism being okay, you know, whether it's Jewish fascism, whether it's other kinds of fascism, you know, the fact that Ukraine is absolutely, its government is absolutely overrun by fascists. And the possibility is that there's some scuttlebutt going on that Zelensky's to seal his deal with the gas pipe deal with Greece may actually not come home and may join his wife in one of the several mansions that he's bought with his ill-gotten gains because now the fascists, you know, the days where they had the Jewish poster boy that everybody, all the people are not too very well informed think, well, how can there be fascism in Ukraine when they have a Jewish president? You know, anybody who's really studied the Shoah, studied the Holocaust knows that there was a lot of Jewish collaboration with the Nazis. Certain leaders, you know, it's a human foible. It happens whether you're Jewish or Gentile or what, you know. And here's this guy who's now they're rolling out charges against him, not because they're any less corrupt than he is, but the biggest guilty act of any corrupt government is getting caught in the act. And you know, he just dipped his beak in a little too much and a little too obviously. He, in Biden's CIA head, had to fly all the way to Kiev during the war and tell him, stop being so obvious, stop dipping your beak so openly. It's not going to look good. So, you know, he went too far with it. So, all of these things are a pack a day problems, a pack a day smoking bad politics, a pack a day having Orthodox and secular people not getting along, uh, a pack a day since 1991 up through Ukraine's modern history, where it suddenly tried to do something that Ukraine has never been. It has never been a nation. All those groups of people that were in the Soviet Union that the communists turned into the Soviet Socialist Republic of Ukraine are were never chose to come together to make a nation. I mean, it would be like in the 13 colonies. If we had the 13 colonies and then we pulled in Canada and said, okay, you're part of America now. In our new country, we're no longer a British colony. We grabbed you too, which actually they did try in the early part of the American Revolution. And then suddenly you got the Canadians saying, well, no, we don't want to be a part of your new country. Well, you know, almost half of the people in Ukraine are not Ukrainians. There are Russians who have a different culture, mostly Eastern Ukraine. And the other thing too is another bit, one pack a day in Ukraine of all the propaganda that has been going on in the schools since 1991 or 92 when they became an independent state. I've looked at these books and things, and I can't believe they're so salacious. They're even kind of dirty, pornographic, and then the kids are actually watching an alternative history that makes, long story short, Russians are subhuman Slavs, and the Ukrainians from the Kievan Ukrainian Russians, who are genetically exactly the same as the Russians. The Ukrainians and the Russians all come from Kiev, the Kievan Rus and Novgorod Rus, and genetically they're indistinguishable. But in 91 up to 2014, the Banderite fascists, who used to be the best allies outside of Nazi Germans that the SS had in their war against Russia, have taken over the country uh, with our help in 2014. So that's another pack a day goes there. So it we're having in general, it's not just Jewish people. It's not even sourced just to Jewish people. It has been a breakdown. It actually the name for apocalypse in the Nordic Viking lore is Regnarök, which means the breakdown of structure. The structure of your lungs after a pack a day. Yes, you're a strong guy. The structure lasted a long time. Now it's full of cancer holes. And so that order, that force, that political understanding is now undergoing a a revolution. We're entering a revolutionary period, and now I'll get astrological now. Is that on this show and on my writing over many years now, I've been talking about how um, the cycle of the Pluto transit in one orbit defines an entire era of the United States, from the birth of the United States in 27 degrees Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn. It took Pluto to go the ruler of eras and generational ages, 248 years to come in seven swipes back and forth in retrograde direct course over the United States birth chart, and in seven waves, things packs a day, 7 packs a day. Finally, each day kind of broke down the situation in the United States government, the United States economy. I mean, to the point now that you know, they don't know how to fix it, because really they're the problem, the people that are running things. It's and then what's happened too is another big thing happened at the end of 2024 is, so we finished that, and America kind of already got into this destabilized situation before October 7th started to do the same thing in Israel. Although the same thing was coming. I mean, I've been writing about it for over a decade. Um, that Israeli politics was supplanting secular politics for extreme National Socialist politics. Meir Kahane and all those guys, people who were arrested and couldn't even go into politics in the last few years, have been able to be in the Knesset. And Netanyahu, who actually created Hamas, he actually helped it become a anti-Fatah so that he could create division. Oh, that was a good pack. Wiping out my lungs. That let's smoke that. This dividing the Palestinians into Hamas and Fatah. They had a civil war over that in the 90s. That Netanyahu was behind all that. So I mean, I consider Netanyahu a cancer stick of humanity. He is. People been smoking him way too long, and hopefully he will be retired or something. But so what's happening is it's in the cycles of history. Things are built. We're also having, in a bigger picture, we're having 500 years of hegemonic colonial control by Western colonial countries, Europeans and Americans, Europeans, um, mixing together, although we're more of a mix thing. This this is also collapsing. This is also reaching a Ragnarok, a break of structure, a collapse
Mm.
of order, and it. So, and Europe is now ruled by retards. Sorry to say, they are retards. I mean, it's like I used to think. Schultz, who we called in the alternative media
Is
Sergeant
that
Schultz.
French or German?
Yeah, Sergeant Schultz. I mean, I know nothing. I know nothing. One of the dumber than dirt chancellors of Germany I've ever seen. And I mean, he'd come into the office in the morning or a speech, and he wouldn't say "Good morning." He'd go "Morgen," and and he's now Merz, uh, who overtook him. He's even a bigger clown. They're talking about fighting with the Russians. There's this power now doesn't see what's in front of it in reality. You and then you have on top of everything else what's going on. Unfortunately, America is now burdened with the second dementia problem president in a row. Uh, Trump is cognitively declining, and as per his family history, he's going fast. Um, he's talking about all these 8 or 9 wars that he solved. Just like Biden used to talk about how his son died in Iraq, which never happened. And there's a situation where he had the head of the Democratic senatorial group and some major other senator that he knows, and he said, "Oh, it was nice to see Chucky Schumer. That was nice." And then he brought along this really nice man. It's an African American senator or something, and he doesn't remember who he is. Um, this the way the man is completely disconnected from the fact that he is there in that office because of MAGA. He is there in that office because of Marjorie Taylor Greene, because of uh, Tucker Carlson, uh, because of Alex Jones. I was even watching Alex Jones today. He was like saying, I love you, Trump. Oh, as well. But when you're doing something wrong, I'm going to say no, that's not right.
Right.
And so he
And
is.
another one that's pushing back, on the whole, MAGA Trump agenda, the current one, is Bannon.
Yes, Bannon, and then also this Nick Fuentes is also doing a lot, but I personally, when I look at him, he's got another story too. I mean, I don't know. I think he has a huge following, and but I don't know.
Well, I hear this is the take that I have with Nick. Nick seems to be this articulate, but he knows the
He's
pulse.
vulgar.
He knows the pulse of his generation. He knows
Yes, he
what to
does.
say. This is what I mean by articulate. And he
Yeah,
knows how to speak.
the vulgar dimension of his generation.
Yes,
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 he's genius.
definitely. Now,
Good luck with that.
but but there's an element of being a shock jock, and I
Yeah,
don't know. Eventually that generation hopefully will start to, grow out of their adolescence
yeah. Yeah,
mindset. And
he's brilliant adolescent. I think he's one of the most brilliant man children I've ever seen as a vulgar adolescent being just nasty.
right. And he's gonna
Truthful, but nasty.
monetize this until the cows come home. But I think eventually he will there's two paths for him. See, Alex Jones is starting to die out. All right. He's like a star that's starting to, wither away. It's losing the luminosity of the star,
Well,
right?
I don't know. His ratings have never been better. So
Well, I
that's
just think I think his zenith point was right after 9/11, when he was focused on what was going on with 9/11, the inside job, what was going on with the Bush administration and the march to the Middle East and the never-ending war. I think
yeah.
that moment in time was his moment, right? That was, and it's been a decline since. But has his ratings been going up? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I agree. But I'm not measuring
Oh,
success based on just ratings, but on actually what the person is saying and how it's moving the ball in terms of the society or changing the zeitgeist.
Alex is a survivor. And I had a long
Yep,
arc with
he's
him.
Gen X.
I used to write really nasty articles about him. I thought, but then I saw him change, and I adapted to that reality.
I think after the bankruptcy, I think he's been in a decline. But okay, so but I
I
see
disagree,
Stu
but that's okay. We
Peters.
can disagree. It's a
I
free
see I
country.
see Stu
Between you
Peters.
and me, at least.
I see Stu Peters and Nick Fuentes potentially becoming the next Alex Jones. And I'm not sure if they see
Yeah, yeah, in a
Stu
Gen Z
is
way.
not Stu's Gen X. Alex Jones Gen X.
Oh, okay.
All
Oh, that's
right. So
interesting.
so the question is will these shock jock, alternative media platforms continue to move the ball, on the football field, or will it be Gen Z? And
It's
I
Gen
think
Z.
literally Nick Fuentes, if there's a high potentiality he becomes the next Alex Jones.
Well, yeah, I could see that possibility if he remained shock jock like Jones had been, but with some but very accurate. I would also say Alex has been very accurate about. And I'm not in the same political world that he is in, but you know, I've recorded now. He's very accurate. Now, but Fuentes is I mean, remember when Alex Jones, that's what really pushed my buttons with him. He'd take off his shirt and shows man boobs and just be an idiot going, sometimes, oh, look at me. And I just said, oh, God. And I think Nick Fuentes is in that phase. The question is he just riding, taking advantage of the the way things are going, will he be the kind of person who will grow like Tucker Carlson did and actually kind of note his mistakes and move on? I'm not so sure that he will. And also, in this climate, to be coming out openly as I don't like Jews, it's the Jews, it's not the Zionists that are doing this. I mean, okay, it's a free country, but that kind of shows kind of a suicide. Somebody who wants to.
Well,
What's
exactly,
the
because
term?
if the
Where
narrative,
somebody is kind of asking for it.
well, yeah,
I
because
hope I hope nothing will happen to him. But I mean, I mean, in a world where everybody's calling fire about anti-Semitism, and you just stand up and say it's blood rather than psychological, it's blood libel. Um, Ooh, that just kind of feeds a certain group of people who have a very fine secret service called Mossad, who are geniuses at people.
I would
And
not. You're right. I would not be
yeah,
surprised that Nick ends up dead sometime
yeah. I
in the
mean,
near
he's kind of
future.
asking for it. He's got a death wish. I think
Right.
the guy's got a death wish.
Well,
I hope I'm wrong. I don't. But
if what he's saying is true, all right, and then let's say Charlie Kirk was knocked out by intelligence agents of Israel, let's just say, then why wouldn't they knock Nick out? I mean,
Well, yeah, well, because that's a good point. Because actually, Mossad and the Zionist regime in Israel are probably, and this is where Fuentes probably isn't seeing that he's being played a patsy, because the other way of looking at it is exactly that. Well, I mean, the Zionists, whenever they got some fire-breathing, real anti-Jewish Semite person, it's just then they can go, look, look, play the victim game. Oh, look, he's terrible. Look how he's doing. He really does hate Jews, and then that rallies the tribe together. It's a very toxic way to rally people together, putting a handful of Jews and the 441 million Muslims, Iranians, and Arabs, and then having them get in there by kicking everybody out and burning 700 villages in 1948, and then be openly like Jabotinsky and other great and founders make it, as I quoted, that they're saying, yeah, we robbed them, we pillaged them, we raped them, and that's why you got to always be vigilant. Even Moshe Dayan said that. He reasoned that. He said, we're and in his rather toxic view was play Sparta all the time. You're always at odds with everybody around you, and that's if that's how you keep the tribes, the 13 tribes of Israel together. Um, wow, that's a very toxic way of doing it. And I have said, and I've consulted some of my rabbi friends about this, Torah rabbi friends, and their contacts in Jerusalem. And I basically looked at the chart when the U.S. Embassy was moved. I wrote some articles about it last year. I said when it was moved to Jerusalem, which goes against the whole idea, and saying, okay, now and that was Trump that did that. It was also Trump that got the Ukrainian army up to standard. So when he says, I didn't do any, this is not my war. No, you actually, in your watch, in your first time, you actually honed the fascist army of Ukraine to a fine degree. But I'm going off a tangent there. The thing is that I did a chart on the birth chart of the Israeli state, and I recently republished that article that I did way back, God, several years ago when that was happening, and I told my contacts in Israel and my American contacts to them, I was saying, um, this this will destroy. This is the step. Talk about another big pack of cigarettes one day somebody smoked to make a cancer. That step is now bringing on the cancer of the end of the Jewish state. That because the astrology just showed it, and there was, we just in October passed a terrible for Israel as a nation, the transit of Mars through Scorpio passed, and I talked about how it passed over all of these very key parts of the Israeli state's birth chart. Now, I don't know if I made it clear enough. I apologize if I didn't. I mean, I was thinking that something big was going to happen actually from that, but the other problem with it is that a lot of times, you see, when astrology is doing a certain dangerous thing, a kind of malicious potential conjunctions or transit, it can more often than not be the conception of an evil idea. And then, so it happened, the conception of something we're going to plant that now, or we're going to start planning for that. And it may be months, maybe even next year before the plan is surfaces, but it was impregnated in the minds of leaders that were going to do it in this in just last October, of this year.
We do have a question, and we have a mic request here. But
Oh,
let me
good.
just read off the question. This is something that we weren't able to answer at the end of the show 2 weeks ago. You remember Mary, right?
Yes, Mary. Hi, Mary.
So Mary asked the question, I'm curious about what the every man can do, John. I'm thinking about the story of Uzzah.
Uzzah?
Uzzah. Well, maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Uzzah.
Uzzah.
I don't know who that is. The man who put out his hand to steady who steadied the ark when the oxen stumbled. So all right, now I know what the story is. So you know the story.
That's from folklore. I think it's Jewish folklore. I think it's
So
yeah.
basically, there was a ark that was during transit. All right,
Yeah.
going from one area to another area within Israel.
Hmm.
I think this is during David's time.
Yeah.
King David's time. It may be before King David's, but I think it's during King David's time. But you're not supposed to touch the ark at all. And there's a cover on it, actually. So there should be static electricity, and supposedly there was enough static electricity that actually would shock you and kill you. But he touches it. I guess this cart was going to tip over, so this individual tried to prevent it from falling. So that's what she's mentioning.
Wow. And did he succeed?
He prevented it from falling, but he dies.
because he got electrocuted. Yeah, but he
Well,
saved.
well,
Yeah,
because the law is that you're not supposed to touch
right.
the ark. And
That's an
the
amazing
coals,
story
there's
when you
wooden
think of it.
coals.
I mean, he had to have the presentiment that what he was doing was going to kill him, but the ark might not have fallen down a ridge or something like that.
Right. Okay, so let's get back to
Okay.
our point
Okay.
here. So the man who put out his hand to steady the ark when the oxen stumbled, how do people do good in the best way for the best outcome for all humanity? Thank you.
That's a very profound question, Mary. And it it may presume certain things that I I a few days ago, a few mornings ago, I wrote an article which I'm probably going to put on my Substack. I'm building up the page now, and I think this will end up there. But it was kind of a talking about um, the mass mob mind and the individual mind, what I like to call the undivide you all mind. Who the undividual is undivided. That's what indivisible individual means. Is a person who is open to creating, to understanding that revolutions are often in the mob mind's predictable use. React illusions. Revolutions react illusions. They react, they activate, again, illusions. You hate the Tsar, you hate his secret police and his Duma, you overthrow the Tsar and his secret police, and you replace it with the Bolsheviks, who actually are worse than the Tsar. And the greatest Tsar, Caesar, that's Russian for Caesar. The greatest Tsar that ever walked the Russian earth was Joseph Stalin. The greatest emperor of China was Mao, even though they were proletariat in their appearance. They had the most power. None of the Ming dynasty or any of the dynasties had the power that Mao had. Same goes with the Soviet leaders, Stalin. So I made a description of, if you have a huge sheath of bread, which is as big as the floor of my office from way over there to where I'm standing, and I give you only this much, a dollop of butter. If you want to know the nature of consciousness of a mob, you have to take this one dollop of butter, like as if it were the consciousness of one individual, individual, and spread it across the whole floor. This maroon bread I have. and it's like the Bilbo Baggins statement. He says, something's happening to me, Gandalf. I'm sometimes feeling like I'm not enough butter spread across too much bread. And that's where I derive this metaphor, is that there is a unit of humanity that has the ultimate unconsciousness. As the most unconscious force of humans are when they're in a mob, when they're massed together. And so the quality of a group mind is always very unconscious and predictable and mechanical. Case in point, one of my favorite stories that Osho used to tell. I think there was a Hindu on Muslim riot in the hot seasons in India. When I lived in India, I experienced some of that as well. And it gets very hot. Some Muslim launches a pig into the Hindu temple and vice versa. And then people were rioting in Pune when I lived there in the 80s. Amazing thing is you could be, one time I was going out from the ashram to eat a nice meal at the Blue Diamond, which is a few blocks away. And there was all this, like, it looked like some festivity was going to happen. All these excited young Indian Hindu men were all kind of hugging each other and kind of like getting ready. And I wondered what's going on here. I go into the restaurant, and then the people at the restaurant were incredibly slow in getting my food cooked, slower than usual, putting my food down, waiting a very long time before they brought out the bill. And I was wondering what was going on. And they didn't say anything. It's amazing how people just know in India about things are happening. So then when it finally happened, after 3 hours having to sit there for 3 hours, they let me go. But I was able to pay my a few rupee for my meal. And then I walked the back, went the same direction I came, and what I saw was nobody on the streets. All the Muslim shops were ransacked. It was the detritus of a major riot just outside the gates of my ashram. So I realized that they were protecting me. And it
Wow.
was really nice of them to do it that in that indirect way. And it is so Indian culture, which I love. So I walked over, stepped over all the detritus of a major riot. So what happens? So the problem with a lot of what's going on, that this is a dimension of the fractal breakup, is that a lot of our leaders, most people live like machines. That's why I think people are infatuated with making machines in their own image and artificial idiocy, AI, uh, because they, so we're very mechanical, and and it functions. And it functions sometimes at societies, cities, kings, and councils and governments, and all it kind of functions. But it functions like a mechanism. It does not have the attention and the awareness of a Zen master or a Buddha or something. Um, it is the dynamic has always been that darkness or people living unconsciously. I mean, some people will call, I mean, Osho used to say there's only one virtue and there's only one evil. I guess you could say equally in the same way, there's only one blessing and there's only one curse, to use the lexicon that we're using today in this show. The one, the one virtue, I'll call it, is consciousness, fully flowered. And that only happens through individuals. It is not there's no collective awakening of the human race. There can be enough awakenings of individuals, though, and very few are needed to actually create a climate that happened back when there were five Buddhas walking the earth. Buddha was one of them, and there were four other people that were just as great consciousness as Buddhas. Mahavir of the Jains was one of them. Keshkambala was another, and then there were other two. And there are only fragments of their sutras, and they are amazing. I think Keshkambala was even more amazing than the Buddha's of sutras. But his all was just, except for the fragments, it's all gone. So I will was talk again about this theme of the decade of peace that descended around 500 AD around all the kingdoms of India. And just things worked. Something magical was happening, which happens in India. Even with all the noise and pollution and crowding, it's still there, that presence, that magic, the enlightenment, haunted by enlightened people. And so all the scholars around different kingdoms were noticing that there were no wars, that all the castes, the untouchables to the Brahmins, everybody in between were all living in harmony. Everything was really great. And they realized that at a certain point, it reached a peak for 10 years, and then after those 10 years, it slowly, slowly vanished. So what all the pundits and scholars and historians and people looking at what was going on in India decided that it must have been the only thing that was different, the only thing that had never happened before, was that in those 10 years, all those five great Buddhas, great awakened ones, were teaching in India, across India. Just five was enough. The theory is that just five of those extra people was enough to end wars in India for a decade. and civil strife. And now most of the mechanical people, they, they would go robotically to worship. They would do the thing that you're supposed to do for your own karma, that if you see a monk, you give him some food, because you have faith. You don't actually know why he's working on his consciousness, because you're not really conscious, but you just kind of have an instinctive knowledge that, well, if I help this really saintly man, there's something about him that's, if I can keep him fed, and give him a new robe or something like that, probably it's good merit for me. I don't understand it, but I have faith in that. I mean, the problem with faith is not knowing. It's trusting in a thing, that it's qualified. It's a very deep form of a qualified and innocent ignorance. It's like, I don't know if Jesus really did all those things, but I have faith in his message. Of course, what I say to people, and I've written about it, is, I say, well, in the case of your faith, um, Jesus, you pray to Jesus, right? Yes, I do. Okay. Do you know that Jesus never knew that name? That name was fake? That it was adopted later by Christianity when it went into Rome and got Romanized, and then Jesus Christos is a name that Jesus never had. And if you had called him, if you were far away saying, "Hey, Jesus," he probably would have ignored you, because his name was Joshua, Yeshua. And so when people have been praying for thousands of years in Jesus' name, you're praying to something false. And Matthew 27, in the little apocalypse, when Jesus himself is talking about the end times as an apostasy crisis, a crisis in faith, a crisis in trust. There's a famous one I'm just going to paraphrase, is that, but Lord, we casted out demons, and we did this, and we fed the poor, and we did all these virtuous things in your name. And he just basically says, not in my name. You know, you never knew me. I never knew you. Well, how, if you want to look at some long chain smoking situation, which has put Christianity into a cancer potential situation, is for 2,000 years, Christianity has not been praying to Christ. Well, you've been praying to Christ, which is a fake name. You've been praying to Jesus, which never was his name. And I would just, all you Christians out there, why don't you spend the next 21 days praying to Yeshua?
This,
I've
this,
done
this,
this meditation.
you're bringing up something that's really important to really hit home here on the metaphysical, because even in Judaism, the name of something is super important because of the gematria. If you change the letters, the spelling, or whatever, you're changing the numerical value,
That's right.
and you're circumventing that metaphysics, or
Yeah.
that energy force that's coming down through the Sephirah.
You're changing the vibe.
And then
Because
when
because in gematria is because people didn't have numbers in those days.
it
Alphabet had numerical values. That's why we have 666 and 616 and
well,
so
it gets
forth.
even better because in certain prayers there, so there are different angels.
Hmm?
But in the modern context, when we think of an angel's good, right? They're all white, But in
They're
ancient
more juicier
biblical,
than that.
right? Ancient biblical, they can be evil, right? They can be something that you do not want to summons. Right? So
That's why Solomon was only given the power to do that. Actually, the grimoires of Solomon, Nostradamus used the same grimoires to conjure higher beings from different
interesting,
planes.
interesting. Well, this parlays right into what I was going to say. Is that
Yeah,
there are certain prayers where it's designed in such a way where the letters are switched around, or the pronunciation is switched around where it's wrong, so you're not able to conjure up the actual angel.
or you'll conjure
In the
something
right,
else
right, exactly,
and think it's the
exactly.
right guy.
So if Jews have been putting in prayers for thousands of years where they don't want to summons the angel, so they say certain words that are different. Metatron's one of them, actually. But the thing is that you say it in a way where it doesn't allow for that communication. It
Yeah.
short circuits
Because
it.
in the beginning there was the word.
Right, right. So
So
you
it's
just
important.
expand this out to what you were saying about Jesus. It's just like
Yeah.
if they're not saying the right word, they're
Right.
not communicating. The communication that they think they have doesn't exist.
And I think math is Jesus foresaw it in the Mount of Olives sermon. He saw this was the big problem. And hey, we're less than 8 years away from the real Christian millennium happening, which is not the birth of Christ, but the passion of Christ marks its 2000th year in 2033. So in this bigger picture, we're dealing with all the breakup of an entire age of the according to some of the prophets in the Catholic faith who are kind of more into this. They're not so in the book of Revelations is about, we were talking last time, I think, is really about the first century AD. It has nothing to do with us. But the apocalypse of Christ, wrong name, sorry, see the habits there. The apocalypse of Yeshua or Joshua, you know that that's where the 2000 years of kind of projecting stuff on that, all those people praying to the wrong vibratory thing, is exactly what Matthew 27 is talking about, in my view. If one, I always eschew any Sunday school, Friday school Muslim, Sunday school Christian, Saturday school of the main Western religions. I mean, I I do look with innocence at the prophecies of all traditions. I know what they're saying about it. I'm not ignorant of what has been put upon these prophecies. How else would I know if you drop them and try something else, something new comes up? If I didn't know what potentially may be wrong. And he's basically saying in that judgment is, you guys for 2000 years, except for a handful of you, you have not prayed to me. You've prayed to some false name. And as many people who love St. Paul, and I know St. Paul did a lot of great things, but his greatest mistake is he Romanized a Jewish reform movement and turned it into Christianity. What does that mean? Of Christ. And the Christ name is false. So who then is the Antichrist? By mistake or by unconscious choice, the very people that proclaim Christ, well, they're pro-Christ, but they're anti-Yeshua. And so I tried it once when I was doing intense meditations. I thought, it felt so true to me that Joshua is the name. And so I started to, I prayed and to Joshua and in his name. And I can't explain what happened, but I think it would be a really good test, a really good thing to try out. If you want to trust in the real name of his name, pray to that. All 300 sects of you in Christianity, with the handful of big ones, in Jeshua's name, pray and see what happens. You might get back on track.
Okay, so we have a couple questions in the text, and we have a request for the mic. So let's handle the request on the mic here.
Okay.
You're on.
Hello.
Is it me, Paul?
Yeah.
I have a question. It's an interesting topic because it's funny. I've been watching the movies lately with the subtitles,
Mm.
And I've noticed a prolific use of the word Jesus Christ. When they swear on tape, they always will swear Jesus Christ. And I didn't realize how prolific it was, but whether it's something I'm just observing, but I thought it was interesting to the conversation about Yeshua versus Christ, and maybe what is it you're summoning when you use the words. But
Well, yes, it's a great. I mean, what's your name?
Well, this is Don. This is
Oh,
Don.
Don. Hi, Don. Um, so I always find it very interesting when I talk about this name issue to members of my family, to who are Christians, who and other people, and even former Russian Orthodox Soviet people who became sannyasins, who I talked to him in the jacuzzi one time about it, and I'm always surprised when I said, "Well, are you aware that this Jesus Christ name is just was not ever his name?" I find it very shocking to me. It's almost to me as shocking as what's currently happening, where the term anti-Semite is completely owned by Zionists. And the habit is, and I said, well, Palestinians are Semites too. Arabs are Semites too. So if there's a Holocaust of Jewish Semites, it's terrible, but you guys just point fingers at everybody else while you're murdering 700,000 Palestinians, and the count is probably 1 million now. It'll probably be another year before the guys that count that kind of stuff, they take about 6 months to catch up with. I just did an article in my last bunch of Hogue Prophecy articles where I showed how over from October 2023 and up stage after stage, I had quotes from articles where I was saying it was going to by now be around 700,000. And now a prestigious group of guys published that it was, and this was actually in April of last year. They said it was 680,000 dead. That's the estimate, the more factual estimate, because when you destroy Gaza and you destroy all functioning civilized systems, governance, food, water, churches, universities, I mean, these guys went into here and razed all of that. So this is in genocide, it's classic. You destroy the culture. You wipe out the priesthoods. We are the muezzins. You do all this. This is, and this is even more disgusting because it's Semites killing Semites. Cousin brothers and sisters of Abraham have decided to do what the Nazis did to them. Where's the karma of that going to go? Talk about kind of misreading things. Is it any wonder that the world is also waking up to it? And of course, and that's where I think Nick is really showing his immaturity when he starts to do the play the a real he's a real anti-Semite.
Well, I mean, he admits to it.
Yeah.
He very, very, the thing is, coming from a Jewish perspective,
Yeah.
I feel as though that there is a large segment of the Jewish population that allows the hijacking of the religion through the Holocaust and through this misuse of anti-Semite.
Mm-hmm.
What they really should be saying is anti-Jewish.
Yeah.
Because that's really what's happening here. It's anti-Jewish,
Yeah, because
it's not, I don't know, maybe it's not politically correct or it's not the right term to use or whatever. But within the Jewish community, there are so many people, and you even notice if it's a Shmuley guy that's a Orthodox rabbi that used to be the rabbi for
what a strange man.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I know.
So
I've seen him do things where
I
he's
know
rubbing himself up against his children and all that. He's a very strange man.
Yeah, I would
think
not be
he's a pervert.
surprised if he's. I don't know for sure, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the Epstein list.
Yeah, well, I
like,
think he was in some of that.
Well,
Yeah,
I
think
would not be surprised. But the thing
Yeah.
is that even certain Jewish Orthodox sects like the Lubavitch have denounced him.
Hmm.
So there's an infighting that's going on with him and other Jewish individuals high
Is
up.
Lubavitch more show?
Well, it's like Chabad Lubavitch.
Okay.
He comes from a Chabad.
Well, I know him, but I'm trying to. He's not Talmudic, is he? Or is he?
Well,
The other big group
well,
starts with
all right,
SH.
Satmar. The two big ones are Satmar and Chabad.
Okay.
Now, both of them read
But the Torah, I'm talking about Torah
right.
versus
Both. So I'll break this up into three sections here. Both read the philosophy of the Ultra Rebbe, the Tanya.
Okay.
All right, which is heavily influenced by Maimonides, which was a philosopher, a Jewish philosopher, that's back in the 1300s, I believe. Now, Satmar is more probably focused on Talmudic studies and the diamond industry in New York, right? And Chabad is more outreach to try to get ones that are secular Jews to be more observant.
Okay.
So but both of them study the Talmud. But I would say that Satmar is a little bit more ultra Orthodox. All right.
Okay.
All right. Chabad is Orthodox, but it's not. I wouldn't say that it's ultra, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the point here I'm making is that there are so many Jews, secular Jews, and also Hasidic or ultra Orthodox, that the religion has been hijacked by the Holocaust. The thing, yes, there was atrocities and all this, but the thing is, you need to move forward.
Yeah, you got it. Otherwise,
you
it's
stop thinking in the past.
Yeah, it's in the past. You got to move on.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, otherwise, it's kind of in an odd way playing with a wound.
Yeah. So,
but of course, what's happened now, it'll never be the same now. In fact, this whole situation since October 7th, 2023 has kind of stirred up the whole world about it, because the people that hold on to the Holocaust as some way to look, we're victims and look what happened. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It happened.
And John,
but that's over now. That's over now, because if you're doing exactly what the Nazis did to other Semitic peoples, that's the cat's out of the bag.
This is the argument that Ben Shapiro uses, Mark Levin, right? And Shmuley.
Which argument?
The idea that the world's against Jews. And, we got the Holocaust, and they keep on drumming.
Yeah, I've watched Levin. He's really losing it.
And the last Rebbe, the Chabad Rebbe, Schneerson.
Yeah, Schneerson.
He was asked by a group of Jews that were religious, but maybe a little bit more on the secular side than the Orthodox side. And they wanted to have, during Passover, normally you invite people over that are Jewish and not Jewish. And you have the Passover meal and you read the Haggadah. Now, the Schneerson was asked by a group of people, well, let's have an empty chair, empty place setting for individuals that weren't able to celebrate Passover, and it represents the ones that died from the Holocaust. All right, and he says, and Schneerson, this is Chabad, Rebbe, all right, very knowledgeable guy, very high IQ, all right, and he goes, good idea, but it's wrong. And the reason being is there's so many Jews that aren't celebrating Passover that your mindset should be on the people that are alive and not the ones that are dead. And this is the problem that is happening with Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro and all that. They're so focused on that the religion literally has been hijacked by the 1945s. And so that's just my diatribe. Now,
I mean, I think in a way, I've been gestating this idea, and I'll be writing about it more and more, is that the greatest, this terrible situation now is going to put an end to that habit. because people like, those kind of Zionists who want to hold on to the victim. Look how they did this to us, this whole guilt trip thing, and nothing's more powerful than something that really happened that you're doing it with.
Mhm.
But
But they always demonize individuals that will push back on
yes,
Shapiro. And
yeah, divide
and
and
a lot of
conquer.
them that are pushing back are not Jewish. So it's
I
easy
know.
for them to use the trope. Oh,
Yeah.
you're not Jewish, you don't understand. The Holocaust was, well, yeah, the Holocaust was,
I got a good scene because I'm
but
part Jewish. I'm probably Hasidic Jewish Ukraine.
my grandmother's mother died in the Holocaust. So my
Yeah,
great grandmother. But the thing is that but the point here is that it's hijacked. But I
it's
don't,
hijacked.
because we are limited on time here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Don had another question.
Oh, okay, Don, go ahead.
So Don, if you can ask your question, and then I can also continue on the other questions that are in the.
Yeah, let's do the other questions too if they're all waiting.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
So
We try to
Don,
get going here.
you want to ask? Go ahead.
No, hey, thanks for the conversation. I like where John's going with this, because I agree with a lot of his geopolitical views of the current state of the world and the arrangements. But the one thing I think you were steering towards, but we keep getting pulled back into these political frameworks versus moving to the metaphysical frameworks. And I think that's where it's missing. I've been in these spaces and people bounce around between Charlie Kirk or it's, Fuentes, but they're missing the opportunity to create a new episteme. And I think that's what we're probably struggling for right now. When I'm in these spaces, like, what is the philosophical framework of how we now will deal with an uncertain world in which we're moving rapidly into, that literally we don't seem to have any conversations about this technological revolution that's going on, about who's directing it, what's directing it, and is it actually creating a new ontological framework of understanding who we are. So I feel like it's so disjointed, and I'm glad that there's certain people are at least talking about the metaphysics to try to take us back to the first order principles of how it is that we would allow to preserve this experiment of free will. Because everything that you're talking about is just a derivative of it. But we're not going back to the first order principles in my mind. And really what we're dealing, I think, is with Foucault's, what he studied was how knowledge is wrapped up in power. And those that are controlling, in my opinion, trying to control the resources of the world and keep us trapped in this metaphysical world or this physical world, they are steering the narratives, the folklore, and we're trapped in it. And unless we break out of it and create a new philosophical framework, we're just going to be stuck talking about Fuentes versus what is the new episteme.
Well, can I just chime in really quick on this?
Go
I
ahead.
think the curse that I keep on predicting that's going to start on September 11th of 2026 and go into 2027 is what breaks the system that allows for mankind to rise up to eventually. That out of these ashes of the curse, there's going to be a phoenix that rises where we're going to actually have a better society. And
But it has to start from a philosophical framework. That's the problem that I see. Everybody's wrapped up in personalities, and I say that like the objective reality, I think, of what we're all reaching towards is we can't be in endless wars.
right.
It doesn't make any sense, but yet we are, and we're trying to come out of it by still using the current framework.
Yeah. Yeah, John,
Start with the heart.
this is a great question. And
Yeah, it
great,
is.
great
It's
conversation.
really,
that Don
man,
brought up.
there's a lot in there. Thank you for this question. A lot of layers there. There's a deeper layer that has to start from, not from something less. It has to start from the heart. You know, what I would do, what I would ask everybody listening is a little meditation that my master Osho taught me through the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, which is it's called the Book of Secrets, and you can find it on Amazon. It's the basic 114 basic meditations that are the basis of all dhyana. Dhyana is a Sanskrit word for meditation. Dhyana means witnessing, just witnessing. It sounds strange, but if you witness your mind and your emotions, which are deeper than the mind, and if you witness the movements and of other people and witness what they're doing, and if you witness how all around you there's all this movement and change and tumult, but also happy things and big highs, big lows, two sides of the same coin. You see how they're kind of the same coin. You see that the coin has two sides in anything. Love has hate on the other side of the coin. Life has death. Uh, Giving, miserness, they're all two sides in this dialectical thing that happens. But it's more, if you're watching them, to use this metaphor, because what I'm trying to describe is something that's beyond words, beyond the mind, but it is our very nature. If you can, through simply bringing the whole totality of your attention to this moment, to how love and hate are intertwined, how war and peace are intertwined, how good and evil are intertwined, how Satan, Lucifer, and the God of light are intertwined, you will not earn it. It will happen on its own accord. I'm speaking from experience. You will not earn it, but one moment it will not be understood. And then without any effort, you will see who is holding the coin of two possibilities and who is unconsciously flipping it from love to hate, from hate to love. It's a metaphor. I'm speaking about, I'm hinting at something that's beyond language. I'm hinting at something that doesn't even exist. It's even free of that. Therefore, it is also, it doesn't, it doesn't unexist either. It is free. Consciousness is free. And consciousness can only come to its full flowering in an individual. It cannot happen to a group. You cannot take that butter and spread it across a group, because then the bread will still remain high and dry in unconsciousness. And that is why in some of the things you were talking about, or how people could do these things, they have a group orientation, and therefore to kind of fix the problem, the way to fix the problem is to be a light unto yourself. And if you then can share that light, and more people then start to see that light, they also start to become a light unto themselves. That was Buddha's final words before he passed into Mahaparinivan, which he dissolved into the whole. He said, Apo Dipo Bhava, be a light unto yourself. And he was a master of jhana, which is the Pali version of the word dhyana in Sanskrit. Jhana went with Bodhidharma to China and became Chuan. Chuan, when it moved to Japan, became Zen. This is not Buddhism. Zen is beyond. There's no such thing as Zen Buddhism. Zen is an evolution beyond Buddhism. And so what is needed is Zen. But that can only happen within your own heart, in your own being. Only you can discover the traveler that moves through all this change, always changing, good experiences, bad experiences, dark eras, good eras, all flipping coins this way and that. But by watching things as they are and as they go, there can come a moment where one moment you are not knowing who the traveler is, and in the next unguarded moment, you discover who the traveler is. It's just as simple as that, because this point of ultimate awareness is missed by all of us because it is the ultimate ordinary state. The whole existence is born out of ordinariness. You have never been other than this because the source of the divine is in you. But you're trained to look for it out there. And you search for lives and lives, and you get frustrated and you try to meditate, which is a doing. Meditation is the art of doing no thing and being in a state of no thingness identified. And then when that happens, the heart is guiding you. Like I was saying about this meditation that Osho from the Book of Secrets. It's a meditation I really loved, and it's a meditation that everybody listening now, you can do it. You don't have to get on a special dress or sit in a special corner at a certain time of the day, which is an important thing when you're starting meditation. There's nothing good or bad about it. It is good, but and then what you do is so what this meditation is for 3 weeks, 21 days. The vibratory number of 21 is important. It's 3 sevens in trine. It's the divine source in numerology. Is that you go about your day 24/7, waking and sleeping. You think, you act, you don't change anything, and you don't try to control or make things happen that are coming up when you're doing this. But what you do is simply imagine yourself and picture yourself from your inside inner eye. Picture yourself without a head on your shoulders for 3 weeks. It is a very subtle thing that changes if you do it for 3 weeks. So when you're going to sleep, see yourself getting tired and sleepy, and you're laying in bed and you're watching sleep come, but you're watching in bed without a head. When you're in an argument with somebody, argue without a head. If you're happy, be happy without a head. Sad without a head. You will discover that the subtle conditioning, one of the most subtle conditionings, is that we're head oriented. Otherwise, why do we say he's the head of our state? He's the head of our country. He's the head of our corporation. Do we ever call him the heart? He's the heart of our country. He's the heart of the state. No, the heart. See, the problem is, one of the fundamental problems is the way we're conditioned. We come in as Buddhas, and then we're turned into egos. And the Buddha's still there, but it's not, the attention is to be out, out, out in the ego. So everybody's out, out, out. And so the subtle control that we've been programmed of making things all about the head rather than the heart is because when this body-mind vehicle was programmed to follow whatever society it was born in, between the ages of 7 to 14, most of us stop spiritually growing. And it's the reason why sometimes you can see a 50-year-old man getting triggered by something and crying like a 7-year-old, or a Karen acting like a raging 14-year-old. It's because they've never gone past that point. They can re-engage it, but the problem is that if the body-mind vehicle that we are in, and we're the sole driver, let's just call ourselves the witnessing source from the divine driving this vehicle. If we are driving it, the way into the body-mind vehicle for this, which is not a part of our body-mind vehicle, it's free of it. It's visiting. It's never born or dies. It's visiting in these mortal forms, is through the heart. So the heart is the doorway from the body-mind vehicle to the beyond. But what we're conditioned to do is put the head, the brake. Let's call the head the brake. And the heart is the wheel that helps the soul driver to drive. his body-mind vehicle until it gives up and breaks up. And then you get out of that vehicle and maybe you go into another vehicle or you get off the freeway of karma. Round and around it goes, the samsara. And so if you are if you are driving your vehicle thinking the wheel is the brake, your life is constantly like this. You're pushing a brake and going nowhere. And you get frustrated because everything's stopping and delayed and well, you're pressing the brake. When you do real dhyana, witnessing, you don't fight with this problem. You don't try to make it better or worse. You just watch how you try to make it better and worse. You just watch what it's doing and how it's going. And then you start seeing how it goes and does with others. And then what happens is when you only consciousness can see the movement of the transitory world. Animals don't animals don't think about past and future. They're in the moment, they're instinctive, and they live and they die. But the potential of consciousness in humans is such that there's only you would not know about change unless there was something in you that never changes. It's absolutely simple. There's no way to get around it. If you can see change, and you do, you see yourself getting, when I had a black beard, now I have a white beard. If you're an animal, you wouldn't know that. But if you're a potential sentient talking animal, human being, it's that that's the source. That's the thing to relax back into because consciousness does not live in time. It lives in eternal moment. It's not a thing of time and relativity. It can visit the world of time and relativity, and it can be lost in the time of relativity by all these other people when you're a child trying to say, no, you're not going to make it that way as an innocent, open being. You're going to have to get a name. You belong to this religion. You belong to this country. You belong to this language, and all of that. And if it were, and it wouldn't change if we had a more enlightened society. What would happen instead is that the thread is not lost in our teachers because all teachers all over the world do not draw out this Buddha that's come, this gift of existence that's come in every newborn baby. And what they're trying to do, and they're well-meaning, but they're unconscious of the fact what they're doing is not drawing out. Education means to draw out. It doesn't mean to dump all your bunk on some kid. You mean well, but you're just turning a kid into another, not a Buddha, but another guy that gets slaughtered in a war. Not a beautiful Buddha woman, but some woman that would be exploited. And all of, just as there's so many more things I could say there with both sexes' identities. But so because the silence is an aspect of our eternal being, the more, and the one thing that I'm saying that this world can, what does this phenomenal changing world does? What can it be as a tool for us to rediscover our lost innocence? Is to simply witness it. Don't evaluate. Just let things come and go. The people who simply witness without evaluating, as Krishnamurti once said, that's one of the greatest levels of intelligence and wisdom there is in us. Don't see the values, just watch. And then what happens is there comes a moment, it happened to me. There comes a moment where you haven't earned it. You've just been an observer of the motion, like a mirror, perfectly reflecting everything that's passing by it without judgments for or against. And it goes deeper, all your thoughts and your feelings and your fears and all, just watch them perfectly reflected without thought or feeling. And then there comes a moment where you become aware that you are that mirror. You become aware of the traveler that never changes because it does not move. It's always young, always fresh, always forever, and always just now. And very ordinary. So you know, some your questions have been great, and I could have gone through untangling the Gordian knot of even good ideas, but I speak from my own spiritual experience. That's the only way I can speak with some authority is what I've understood. And all I can say is that dhyana, what's incorrectly called meditation, which gets everybody to think it's about contemplation. It's not. It's about witnessing, not contemplating the mind, contemplating the foolish mind that's contemplating, witnessing that, a step deeper and then deeper. And so meditation in this regard, dhyana meditation is not a religion. If it is just a way to be more aware of your surroundings inside and out. And if you want to use dhyana as a Christian or as an Orthodox Jew or as an atheist or a theist of any kind, meditation, all it does is it makes you more sensitive and more centered. And it makes you able to drive with your heart through your life rather than the brake of the mind. And when the mind is not being driven, it's a perfect servant. It's like having an organic computer. You can switch it on and get your own actual intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Your own AI is actual intelligence from your body-mind vehicle when it's not being identified and shrunk with identities of ego and mind. Then if your mind is not that way, things just drop in there. I mean, look at me, I'm spontaneously talking, all these things are happening. It's an effortless process of me being aware of the traveler. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have another question by 10 Tigers.
10 Tigers. Hello, 10 Tigers.
Yeah. So he's questioning, with all that is going on in the world today, are we just seeing a reawakening of the archetype wanton, which I believe is Odin?
Well, yeah, Woden.
Odin.
Probably Woden or Wotan in German and Odin in Norse.
All right.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think there's a reawakening of Odin?
Well, certainly Ragnarok is happening, as I was saying, which is the apocalypse of the Norse Eddas. And yeah, all my roots are, all my Slavic roots are White Russians for Sweden, Swedish Vikings for my Ukrainian and White Russian side and Russian side, and for my English mother's side, Yarvik, Yorkshire, I have Dane Vikings, and for my name, Hogue, which is a mixture of Norwegian Viking name for hill, Hogue, in Normandy because of the Normans. So that's my other. So the core of my genetic background is Viking. so that you ought to know. So yes, I mean you can name whatever name of facade you want to put. I don't mean facade in a negative way. I mean, the front of a house, the front of a religion, the front of an idea. So whether it's Odin, whether it's God, whether it is Jehovah, whether it's Allah. All I can say is if you become a dhyana meditator, a witness, you will you will you will gain effortless insights into these things. And it's like some of the things that have come out of me in this thing I never thought of these things before. Like, the whole idea of how the Holocaust attachment is being destroyed by the very people who were victims being recognized by the world and by a majority of the Jewish people in the world as behaving just like the SS and Hitler and all of that. Even worse in a way, because they're openly the Nazis tried to hide it. These people don't even hide it in the Zionist regime, the apartheid state of Israel. now Jews can be free of the victim cycle. Now, because of the damage that Zionist Jews have done to be actually doing what Nazis did, has the good side of that is it's taken away the perpetuation habit of using this as a complaint against everybody else in the world, used by some people to actually, in a subtle way, say, you know, we're higher than you because we didn't do this to everybody. You did it to us, and you all subhuman. Well, now all the people, and 83% of the people that live in Israel right now are all for it. So it's not a, you know, all ages. It is shocking to see how everybody who's in Israel right now, most everybody, except for a handful of people like some of my contacts at Haaretz and all that, is people I read. I don't know them, but I read them. I also read the other papers of Israel. They are that that subtle form of victim superiority against the victimizer. That's going to be the biggest casualty, is going to be that. No, now the Jewish people and Judaism needs to move forward and move on and evolve and follow its path and not be stuck in this whole victimizer thing for political gain and for shaming people, for using it as a trope to not face criticism of others. Just why? Oh, you're anti-Semite. That doesn't hurt the person you're throwing that on. That hurts you. You who use those tropes. You may not know it. That's your pack of cigarettes a day. That is your pack of cigarettes.
Let me just add to that. They keep on stating it so many times in the media, and it's losing its quote punch. All right.
Yeah.
And what you layer in the amount of taxpayer dollars from the United States that literally is funding Israel, and then to add insult to injury, that if they're saying that there is an existential threat, let's just be right in the middle of the road, not have an opinion either way,
Right.
but just in the middle of the road. And if Israel's saying they're an existential threat with Hamas and Gaza, all right, then why don't they follow the Talmud? And it states that if you're a scholar, it is your duty, if it's an existential threat, to serve in the military,
Yeah.
not to hide. And so I have a problem with my American tax-paying dollars to go to Israel only for some Talmudic scholar to hide if it is an existential threat.
Yeah.
So it's either existential threat or it's not. Which one is it? And if it's not an existential threat, why do you need my taxpayer dollars?
Exactly. And why Mr. and Mrs. America is your tax money, has, with all the U.S. bombs and U.S. jets and U.S. THAAD missiles and all that U.S. stuff, we have armed. That's like, oh, Hitler's committing a Holocaust. Hey, why don't we finance him and get the job done? That's what's going on now. America's karma is, the blood of the Palestinian Semites is on our hands. So it's also to spread that curse. That's also what our government's doing. It's also how our government, our Senate and Congress and president are all compromised by Mossad and by money from AIPAC. The Americans do not have a government that is for them now. It is Israel first, or Zionism first, not even Israel first. It's Zionism first, and America second. Now, to the credit of the American firsters. And it's so ironic because Donald Trump was very good at promoting the 5 virtues of America first. And people were listening, and most people that followed him and voted for him learned those 5 principles. And now he's gone 180 and turned away. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, well, what about these principles? You're getting us into new wars in Venezuela. You're getting, it looks like this is it's not America first, it's Israel first. And what's his answer? A petulant 8-year-old's brush off, rather vulgar and like a precocious child, which unfortunately, as cognitive decline continues, he's probably going to get more like that. I really don't think he mentally will finish his final term. I've said this for a while, but now I can see it coming over the horizon. I think he will not finish his 4-year term because of it. He might have to go through 25th Amendment uh, and a cognitive test or something, because it's just he's going to get more and more erratic. He'll have his good days, but he's just going to get more and more erratic. He's going to start imagining all these things. There's this whole fixation on the Nobel Peace Prize. Biden was a slow decliner. Yeah, but Trump's not going to be. Yeah.
We have a special comment. All right. So someone that's watching in the chat, it's Jesus Christ Lord. that's their handle. All right. And so
okay.
His statement, he's listening. Jesus
okay.
is all right, John.
Okay.
Jesus,
okay, Lord.
what Jesus says is Jesus is the creator himself. Jesus is Genesis to Revelations. Now, I only have read the Old Testament. I've never read the New Testament.
Yeah.
I'm very sure that Jesus is not in the New Testament. I'm extremely sure that that word is not there.
I'm sorry, folks. It's a simple question of etymology, and you don't take a Greek word that has its origins in Mesopotamia. The anointed one, Christos, means the anointed one. But if you go all the way back to the root Mesopotamian word, it means face smeared with semen. That's how they used to anoint people with the semen of life in the ancient Mesopotamian place. So, I mean, that's the origin of the word. So it's a very old word. Now, and Jesus, it's not Joshua. So if it's Joshua who is Lord, you might want to change that and see how it might maybe affect your life and open something that's been closed for 2,000 years. I'm almost into saying, well, why not? Just try it. All the Christians listening, just try it. In your prayers for the next 3 weeks, say it in Yeshua's name and see what happens. Just put Jesus and Christ aside, because these were clearly added and solidified, legalized by the Council of Nicaea.
You want to hear something weird just to add to what you were saying? So let me just clarify. You said that Jesus's name is, in some cultures, could be defined as being spread.
No, Christos.
Christos?
Christ.
Oh, Christ. Okay, Christ. Now, in the Babylonian Talmud, it states that Jesus is being boiled in semen.
Boiled?
Boiled, yeah.
What's the Babylonian?
The Babylonian Talmud, there's two when they were writing the Talmud.
Yes.
Right? When they were codifying the oral law.
Okay.
Because of the destruction of the temple, they were afraid that the oral law would be lost. They wrote it down. There were two versions of the Talmud. One was the Jerusalem Talmud, and then the Babylonian Talmud.
Babylonian captivity, yeah.
Right. So the one that most people learn from is the Babylonian, because it's been the most edited in terms of, it went through its, first, second, third writings, and then edited and condensed, and the debates between the rabbis. Yeah. So that's really the go-to Talmud version. But the Jerusalem Talmud was another sect of Jews that wasn't edited, and it's kind of like in a rough draft. So
And were they contemporaries, or there was pre or post?
they were about the same time periods.
Okay, so they survived the destruction of the
Yeah,
temple, of the second temple.
yeah.
No, the first temple, sorry.
Wait,
Um,
I'm not sure if the Talmud was written
but
between.
but but there's no Christ. Are you saying that there's some mention of
Well, no,
Christos
no,
and
no, no,
Christ
no. But the point I'm making is that
in the Babylonian thing?
Jesus's Jewish name
Yeah.
is mentioned in the Babylonian Talmud, and it talks about him going against the orthodoxy.
Wow.
All right, and that he's boiled in semen.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Well, they
and
know
this
the
is part of the reason.
root. They know the root.
Well, exactly. That's the point I'm making. That's the point I'm making.
Absolutely.
And then you have all these I'm not going to use the word anti-Semitic, but anti-Jewish individuals that are misinterpreting what is being written in the Talmud, and they're not paying attention that there's a deep history line to this.
Can you give me that verse in the Babylonian Talmud
Um,
so that I can quote it?
I'd have to,
I mean, if you can find it in an email later, not
yeah,
now, but
yeah,
yeah, because that needs to be spoken because that's the etymological connection. I
right,
mean,
right.
smeared with semen, boiled with semen. It's it's what Christos from early Semitic Abrahamic times was then talking about after the shock. Now consider that the whole rethink and trying to get it down and get the codes right, because these are the survivors of the first temple being destroyed and the first destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians, and they're all captive. And in that period of the captivity, I think it obviously sounds that this is where they were trying to create something that could travel and be as a race of people who are cast out of their homeland, and how to preserve it. And so they worked very hard to get it right. And I was not aware of that. Boiled
So
with wow.
there's scholars that are debating if he's being boiled in excrement or in semen.
Okay. Well,
I haven't read this Talmud. I haven't read
given the
because there's
unclean metaphor that, sexual semen and garbage, that sounds that might have been a bit of a judgment, because of the original sin.
I don't know. I haven't read that. I mean, the Talmud is like reading all of like the code of of the state of New York. I mean, it's like
Oh my God.
it's 60 volumes of law.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
It's not, or 70 volumes of law, and that's only that's only a part of the oral law. But the
So,
thing
so
is,
that so they foresaw him, and they foresaw him doing the things he actually did.
yeah,
Buddha was foreseen by the Brahmins 1,000 years before he came. And they even say he'd be born in Bihar, which he was, and then they said he would revolutionize the Brahmin religion, and they misread that. They misread that to mean he was going to make the Brahmin caste even more in power from their pride and ego. What Buddha did is he did fulfill the prophecy. He basically said Buddha nature is a declaration and a reality that everyone, there are no castes. You're all Buddhas pretending to be Buddha, a Brahmin, pretending to be a Kshatriyan warrior, pretending to be an untouchable. You're a Buddha pretending not to be these are these pretenses of the ego and stuff. So he was saying everybody's a Brahmin, and the Brahmins responded by in the next few centuries by just casting out all the temples of Buddhism out of India. That's why it went to China and it spread elsewhere. And then what they did in a very clever, sophisticated way is they said, okay, now Buddha was the avatar we were foreseeing. And they said, well, he's God playing trickster. He's God playing tempter. And so if you follow Buddha, that was God's way to test your virtue and your spiritual sense and not be led astray. So even God in the Hindu idea can be, well, Hari Deva is one of the names of God, the Brahman, and he's a thief. So they made Buddha a thief. a con man, as God playing con man. That's how they got over their big interpretive mistake.
All right, I found the page of the Talmud that states this,
Okay.
and it's dealing with it's dealing with Balaam, and there's a discussion that's going on, and it's talking about it's talking about Jesus being boiled in semen. Yeah,
Wow. If
and
you
this
can,
ties into what you were saying. This is like
yeah,
you know,
I'm having an epiphany here. I
remember
never,
that these
that's the first
people,
time I've had corroboration.
but these people, you got to remember the people, the individuals that were writing the Talmud were, they knew, like 70 languages. They knew obviously the Jewish law, oral and written, right? You're talking about the Sanhedrin. You're talking about people that really knew their stuff. They were like the scholars of their time period. They weren't like just a bunch of, you know, Hasidic Jews running around eating, bagels and lox, right?
No,
So I mean, so
they were on
modern day
scholarly lockdown.
yeah, but modern day man assumes that the people that were actually writing the Talmud must have been some bumpkins or something
Yeah,
and just
well,
making stuff up.
no.
And but they were writing in a really, they were tapping into a deeper understanding or a deeper knowledge that goes way before the writings of the Torah.
Yeah, it's the exactitude. Yeah, I mean it's a life calling. I mean it's even more intense than being a Kohanim who's can't walk on earth because he'll be dispurified and he won't be able to go into the great temple to be a priest. And so a lot of even now they're Kohanim in Israel that never touched ground, so that they are not made unclean. So, but even that, though intense and dedicated, has nothing to share compare to with the way these guys were going totally into the exactitude of it. So
Right.
if you can send
I'll send you I'll send you a text. But what's really important is with the Talmud, it's not like
yeah,
taking a page. You got to
no,
have to like understand the book it's coming from. What
yeah,
is it teaching?
yeah,
Because there's a dialectic. You have some rabbis that are saying one thing, others are saying another,
yeah,
and there's a discussion. And then near the end, usually, not always, but usually the sages will say, this is the interpretation, or this is what's been ruled. It's almost like you have a prosecutor in the court of
mhm,
law, let's say to the Supreme Court, you have someone that's presenting to the
yeah.
Supreme Court,
You
and
have the Pope
and
saying it's ex cathedra this or that.
yes, and then you have and then you have the Sanhedrin saying, okay, we're going to rule this way.
Okay.
So if you just take one page and just read it, it's hard to understand what the whole context is. Now, is it written? Yeah,
Well, in
it's
a
written there.
bigger
It's written
sense,
there.
it's the whole context of Emmanuel returning. You know, it is they're talking about Emmanuel. It wouldn't be Jesus. It was they were expecting Emmanuel to come back. The Masiha, not the Messiah. So in the bigger picture, it's foreseeing that, and maybe Daniel tried to kind of get it to a timetable. But no, yeah, the bigger picture is the return of
Right. Well,
a
here,
Daventine. The Dalai Lama is the closest comparison to what David was as a king of Israel. He's like the Dalai Lama, who is both the political and spiritual leader of the Tibetan people. That's what a Messiah is. And so I see the bigger picture is they're interpreting where that's going, and they are human, just like me.
well, it's coming out of the book. All right. So each Talmud is focusing on a certain topic, right? And in Gittin is dealing with divorces, and and it's tied to addressing family law. So the bigger question, and I don't, I'm not a Talmudic scholar, but the question would be, why is Jesus in the Talmud dealing with Balaam and the boiling of semen in family law book dealing with divorces. See, there's a larger context of what this is meaning. See, but I don't know. I haven't read it, so I have no idea. But I do know this is that there is a big mistake to just take one page out of the
No, I understand.
volume and not understand the full context because you don't know who's arguing what. It with just reading one page because sometimes these arguments are 20 pages long.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that I would only just point out that isn't it interesting that there's an etymological bridge, how one wants to take that. I mean, why is it in the codification of divorce and marriage and all of that? Well, it's
I don't know.
how are people born? How are people brought into the world? How are they, through marriage of a man and a woman? So it's kind of fundamental to everything else that sprouts from that. That maybe in the past life I argued that in Babylon. I don't know, but this is what I would.
I'll send you the link, and then you can read the text.
Oh yeah, send me the whole Gideon. But I guess I'll have to start reading the Talmud. All of it.
If you read a page of Talmud a day, it would take 7 years.
Yeah,
7 years to do it.
Well,
and most scholars can maybe do three pages.
The funny thing about times like these is that as much as things are unraveling, because they must, because it's an old thing that's going to die and be born again as something new. We don't have the time. We have to kind of take a jump into whatever happens, whatever religious thing is ending and beginning. And so they had the time to write all that down in their Babylonian captivity. We're going to have to respond to our lives now in this ultimate life or death evolutionary jump the human race is going to go into. So I'll do my best. I'll try to read the GETTR. I might consult some of my friends, some of my Rebbe friends that have read that passage and read the whole Torah. I have some people I could contact.
Because it's important to understand that there is what is written on the page, but also that overall discussion
argument. Yeah, the totality of it. Yes,
I understand. And without I'm not familiar with the argument, so I can't.
I have some friends and I have some friends and contacts that I can talk to and who have read it all, and then I'll just, when I've read this passage and read GETTR, I will ask them, well, in the larger side of the arguments that are so important, how do you interpret this? It's really the hardest job. You got it all laid down there, but it's like with the Supreme Court. How do you interpret the Constitution? Only in a much more elaborate situation. Right. So I get it. I'm on here in public, making sure that I'm not going to just run and say, "Look at this little piece. Look, I've got some boiled semen here."
But the thing is this people have created whole podcasts about some of the negative things that are written in the Talmud about Christianity. No. And are they written there? Yes.
Yeah, I read them.
Most Jews haven't read enough of the Talmud to even know what the context is. So
I have read those parts.
So there are some, but the thing is that this feeds into anti-Jewish
yes.
philosophy or anti-Judaism.
But it also feeds into a cowardliness of Christian scholars who have for years, as I was watching it, I said, "You mean only Josephus talked about him?"
Well,
I had the Hugh Wallace. No. But I mean, if I'm saying, well, you want to hear what people of those days thought about him, go read the Talmud. It's not very nice, but I mean, talk about people talking. Isn't that going to prove that your Jesus was, your Essa was there?
Right.
Because they were so pissed off at him.
Not every Jew is a Talmudic scholar that could give you all the ins and outs.
Yeah.
But most Jews is built into the culture to be learned and have read enough to follow the commandments. And it's not just read the Bible, but it's also doing, because there's 365, there's 613 commandments, positive and negative, some that you can do now, some you would have to do during the temple times. But the thing is that it's part of the religion to learn. Jewish people are the people of the book.
Yeah.
So if you take it from that perspective, on average, there are the ones that are Jewish are more learned in the religion, more scholarly than an average Christian.
Oh yeah,
by far, because if you think about what are the number of books that a Christian has,
well, if you
versus
actually
the number of books that Jews have.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would be, to be
terms.
fair to them, I would say, look, the pile of the accepted New Testament is about there, and in the Council of Nicaea, it was like there, there's all kinds of books that were tossed out that could have been. I mean, I wish.
Yeah, but they don't have the
that has them all.
But they don't have the Talmud. They don't have the Talmud.
No, but I mean, even what Christians consider the right scriptures, or it's even it's not the Talmud, but I mean it's even smaller than if they had a chance to even look like a speck on the side of a Talmud cover,
Right. But what happens is you have these podcasters that will take one page or one sentence out of the Talmud, expand on it, saying that all Jews are evil or whatever. And misinterpret what's actually being said. And then, but they'll pull up their New Testament and go, in Matthew in verse 7, he said this, and again, taken out of context, and miss, if you do that, if you just take one piece of any holy book, right? I'm sure that even in texts in
Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata,
you got to take it in a context.
The Ramayana, the four books of the oldest books, the Rig Veda, of course. And Rig Veda might be larger than the Talmud, actually.
Well, no, I mean, I would say that probably, Buddhists.
Dhammapada, the Diamond
they probably
Sutra.
have a lot of, they probably have.
There was a ton of stuff that the Buddhists had. Yeah, I mean, and it was all mostly remembered by Anatta, his older cousin brother, who otherwise he had a photographic memory, and he was the only guy who had been with him for all those 42 years. And I've never counted how many that there are in that, but yes. So now, is there anybody? I hope we haven't bored you all with our little talk.
No, we're doing good here. But let me ask another question before because we're near the end of the show here.
Yeah.
There was another question that was being asked by.
I mean,
Luke Diamond.
I enjoyed it. I love what we were doing. I wasn't bored.
I mean, because it goes into a deep subject, and
absolutely,
people are emotionally charged.
Great.
All right. All right. This is dealing with astrology here. Part of the problem in Scorpio and Cancer sign, John, can enlighten us. Wait, I'm reading this wrong. Hold on. Part of the problem is Scorpio and Cancer sign. John, can enlighten us all how to turn these signs into spiritual energy in a positive way, as he is Scorpio. You're Scorpio, right?
Double Scorpio with an Aries moon. I got Mars all over the place.
All right, so as he is Scorpio, which is ultimate
12th house, sun and ascendant.
All right, so enlighten us about the signs.
Well, first off, what is astrology? The fundamental idea is that a lot of people A lot of people, really good astrologers, literally think that just by knowing the signs and all and their potential aspects, that's enough. But I am not an astrologer. I use astrology though as, I mean, I will not call myself an astrologer. I am, but I'm also hydromatic. I'm also, theurgic. You know, I see astrology as a language, a divination language, a poetry, a subjective trigger for that which is the theurgic mystery. And it, I've studied almost every noted recorded seer from beginning of human history to the present. And I have noticed that people sometimes who have not the theurgic experience think that the language is more important than the thing that's reading it, than the mystery that's being triggered by it. And you can have something that's very elaborate that triggers you. You can be the Scottish Brahman seer. This guy was just a country bumpkin guy. He had a meteor rock with a polished black obsidian meteor rock, and he picked it up from a fallen meteor, and then all he'd do is look into the black obsidian and scry. He was a scryer, and it would trigger the oracular event. So if astrology triggers it, good. If waving your finger 3 times triggers it, good. If you have to dress up like Nostradamus and pull off all your street clothes, bathe yourself in a big dish with sanctified water, and then if it gets you in the mood by donning a white hooded robe with big sleeves, and then suddenly you've transformed yourself into a second century Roman necromancer. If you get turned on, if you turn on the mood by building a brass tripod which you sit in like the Brighteon, who are a lot like the Oracle of Delphi, only they did not have a volcanic fissure to put their brass tripod over so that she could breathe in the ethylene and fumes and get into a state. So in Asia Minor, the Brighteon, the brass arms, the brass legs of the Bitchute, who are also divinators from Apollo, as with the others, they didn't have the fissure, so they would put a brisket on a stone floor, and they would put a bowl with sulfuric and highly fuming, toxic kind of smells and he'd be over there smelling it. And then he would start to make his divination mantras, and he would then take his laurel branch and as his wand, at a certain point when the divination mantra was finished, he would dip it into the boiling water, the branch, and flash it on the hem of his robe and his naked foot. And the sting would create a wind-like process going through his white robes, which would terrify him. And then instant later, he would be in a divine ecstatic state. And then protected in the circle of protection with a triangle to the right, the entity would be in there and would speak. So that's, if you read my biography on Nostradamus, it's the first biography, full body biography ever written on Nostradamus. It's called Nostradamus, A Life and Myth. And I go deeply into the speculation of what kind of magic he did in his secret study. And you can get it at Amazon. Just type in John Hogue or Nostradamus, A Life and Myth. And you can get it as a paperback. You can get it as an ebook.
Okay, so we're near the end, John, here. So individuals, the ones that are watching and the ones that will be watching the replay, please click the link that's in the description, and that will take you to John's website. So you can sign up for the periodical and also sign up for a reading. So John, if you could talk about
Yeah,
what that involves.
yes. I mean, I have, I mean, not only am I on Amazon, you can find my books there. You can also find my books on Lulu, a more kind of higher quality trade paperback with beautiful covers and stuff, because a lot of my books are in hardback or paperback as well as in that. So you can do that if you go type in John Hogue, Hogue, John, on Amazon and or click on one of the pages there to my author's page, and you'll see all the books that they're currently showing of my books. So that's one way you can learn more about my work and also help me continue it because I literally, my readership is what makes me able to do this by people who also join. You can also join my Hogue Prophecy Report. That, in fact, if you join now, you will get the one that I've just released on the 11th of November. It's 14 articles. It's about 42,000 words. These are like e-magazines. I do bi-monthly or in every 3 months. It depends. I have so many projects going on that sometimes I have to like put that aside so I can catch up on the books I'm writing, the great projects I'm involved with. So it's kind of a loose time. But what happens is that if you become for $60 a member, I have a link that goes through my website that goes to my PayPal page where you can sign up with your credit card or however way you want to pay it, and then I will see it on my PayPal, and then I will immediately send you with the email that you use to purchase, or another email if you want a different email than the one you use for purchasing. You will get a PDF copy, a Adobe PDF copy, which, by the way, has in it a link to the Liquid app that will allow you to read it on your phone any which way you like and not have it little itty bitty letters and you're scrolling around on it on your phone. If you're seeing it in a laptop or all, it'll all come up fine. Um, so you would get that for $12 for a year. No, I'm sorry. I'm dyslexic. Uh, I meant 12 months for $60, which means $5 a month. And you can do it that way, or you can do it as an automatic payment. And then, it'll adjust every $5 or a little more. Or you will get these fully illustrated little zines, little e-magazines. So the other way too is that you can, if you want to do a one-on-one reading with me about your life or things where it's going, what's going on, then you will also find at the top of HogueProphecy.com. What you'll find is you go to HogueProphecy.com and you will see that's HogueProphecy.com. You will be taken to my website. It's going to be changed a few months into a phone friendly. So you might have to, if you want to read it clearly, you might have to look at it on your laptop or a larger iMac or something like that. But soon it's going to be also easy to read on your cell phone. About a month or two, we'll have that happen. Anyway, you will find free samples, free articles there, and then there'll be also a link where you can also join it there and have those choices. And also at the very top of the Hogue Prophecy page, you will see Get a Reading with John Hogue, and it has a link for an email address, and then you click on that, and you put Hogue Reading in the subject line, and then I will see that in all the emails I get, and then as soon as I see it, I will contact you and give you the current times for November and December for readings. It's a good time to do it now if you're feeling like having a reading, because it'll get very busy with a lot of people wanting readings for the new year coming and all of that. So if you get on it now, there's a good chance I can then read for you, and I'll also give you all the information of what I do in the reading. I mean, I start with I can start, although you don't have to have it this way. You get There's a way that you get from astro.com a free astrology chart of your birth chart, and it's free, and then it's sent to me, and then I will then use that to look at the body mind vehicle of your Kelly Blue Book. This is the astrology birth chart is kind of what your body mind's potentials are, where you need to bring more attention, where things are easy, and so forth. And then I do kind of respond like to questions that we've been on. I do the same things with private questions that you respond to me with. And I finish with a interesting new way of doing the Celtic cross, where um, sometimes it doesn't have to happen, but if you start a Celtic cross, there'll be a point where it says, I got to go deeper with this step. I'll take that card out of the first Celtic cross and make a new Celtic cross. And sometimes it'll be a third time. And it's amazing what happens, because it's literally like the cards are digging. These little card algorithms are looking for things in the subjective of us. And it's amazing how then it all kind of comes out like a divination, which is what it is. So yes, get in touch with me. I'll tell you how much it costs, and it's a fair amount. I keep it low because as a celebrity, I could charge, probably get away with $1,000, but I'd only be reading rich people, and I don't want to do that. I want to read people. And so I've got it down to just around $149 for 2 hours. I have a yes for that, because I want to reach people. I don't want to just reach the rich. Real people need more help, and some of those rich people are helpless. So, um, anyway, so that's it. That's what I do. I hope you support it, so that you can keep seeing me on these shows,
Okay.
and like it, and like this show. But if you haven't clicked on the like button, do it now. It's if you like this show, if it gave you a lot of juice.
Well, I mean, it was a great conversation. I apologize for anyone that had a question and we weren't able to get to the question. We had a lot of questions. I will have another show with John in about 2 weeks, so please join us and type in your questions. We also do X-Space simulcast, so you can ask for the mic and ask the question live. But again, I'll be replaying these videos on all the channels on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. So please participate and share the links and grow the audience. We need your help. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing your precious time with us. I feel, it's really beautiful that you have been watching us and listening to us, and I'm grateful that you have done so.
Okay, well, John, tell everybody good night.
Goodbye, everybody. Bless you all.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching tonight, and see you in about 2 weeks or so. All right, John, let me end it here.